Okay, it looks like we're recording. Okay, so one more time for the people in the back. Reed McLaren of The Sustainable Garment. And she has an Instagram, The Sustainable Garment, and a website. But she will be teaching us about caring for and mending our clothes for longer use. Okay, so I'll turn it over to you, Reed. Thank you so much for joining us.
Did Uli want to say anything first? I don't know if there's anything about like the organization or.
Oh, Uli, would you like to say anything?
No, you speak.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
Yeah, you talk and we'll mention it at the end.
Okay, great. All right, just want to make sure. But yeah, so my name is Reed McLaren of The Sustainable Garment, and I am excited to be here today with everybody at the Hera Gallery and the Green Stitch community, which I think is a fabulous project that you guys are working on. Yeah, so we're going to be exploring some of the tools and the techniques that are a part of garment grooming, which is a practice that allows us to maintain our clothing. So not only helping it to look fresh and look its best, but to help it function properly. And that does allow it to, have the longest life possible. And there was a time when we really didn't have a choice. This wasn't something that was optional. Clothing was very valuable and it was a limited resource. In comparison today, we tend to place very little value on our clothing just due to the affordability, the accessibility. We tend to overlook, best care practices. It's not really a necessity the way that it was at one point. So again, we tend to place little value and little care. We kind of treat everything more or less the same. We kind of just throw things in the washer and the dryer. We end up hoping for the best. And when things start coming out not looking as good as they should, or we expect them to be, maybe they do start to pill up and have some wear and tear, or they actually start to fall apart, potentially. We tend to look at the garment and we blame the garment, this piece of clothing. We don't really step back and take a look at our own actions and, what are we doing to possibly contribute to this, early demise of this piece of clothing. So there, again, was a time when we didn't have these luxuries. And I have a quote from a book, A Mending Made Easy. So it was a mending resource from the early 40s, 1943. And I think this puts things into kind of an interesting perspective. Okay, so the quote: "When fabric was very precious, woven as it was on hand looms, about 1/4 yard a day, it was prized so highly that as it was worn or used, every thin place was watched and mended or rewoven at once." And I think Jamie especially would appreciate the notion of this, the idea of producing the amount that you can in a day's work, and there was a time when that was a part of what you did for your family, potentially. The homesteading where people would actually make the cloth, and then let alone the construction of the garment. I mean, that's a whole nother level, but just even producing that cloth. But I just want to show you guys something. Again, this is from the 40s, okay? And this woman, the author, the sentiment was that she's looking back when fabric was very precious. Okay, this is the 40s. This is what somebody would be wearing as like a nightgown. Really this is the equivalent of like pajamas. I want you to see how sweet that little, I hope the lighting's okay. But this was essentially nightgown. This is such a beautiful piece. This is like a slipper satin, like a rayon, and just all of the little details. The equivalent of our PJs, like what we wear today to kind of bum around the house. And I just think that's just amazing that this sentiment from somebody in the 40s, she's already looking back and saying like our ancestors, when things were precious, but I'm holding in my hand something that's 80 years old. And this is something that I acquired when I was a teenager, probably at an antique, an auction with my mom. And I wear this dress pretty hard. I did picture sessions in it, whatever. I mean, I still have it, you know, and I could wear it today. And this is pretty enough to be able to wear to, you know, a gala, for Christ's sake. Like, so when you compare this to, you know, what we have in our closet, quite frankly, I don't know if there's anything that we have that somebody's gonna be looking at in 80 years and oohing and awing over it. So, I mean, if that's the perspective that she had, you know, where does that leave us today? Now, another piece that we're gonna look at when somebody had to mend, this is a piece from like the teens, the 20s French. It's called teacher's smock. So it would be this utilitarian piece, this piece of cotton twill, that just would have been something that somebody would have been wearing, you know, not fancy situation by any means. This was utilitarian, but the amount of work that had gone into, I hope I can get a good view of some of the darning on this thing. I hope that it's coming through. I mean, it's extraordinary. All over this garment, there are just these like moments where things were, like she said, watched and mended or rewoven at once. This sweet little moment here. I mean, this thing is riddled with, you know, all of these different mends and, you know, resewing and what have you. And it just really puts in perspective, you know, kind of where we are today, you know, in comparison. We don't really interact with our clothing anymore. It's either this like complete thing or incomplete. It's either of use to us or has no use anymore. So, you know, we tend to dispose of it, whether that be sadly throwing it in the trash, but also, you know, donating it and kind of letting it become someone else's problem, essentially. But I am excited, and I feel that there's a real groundswell right now of movement and of sort of this rethinking how we deal with our clothing, like how we are consuming our clothing, you know, fast fashion, and the idea of things being produced as quickly and cheaply as possible, therefore passing this, you know, inexpensive quality, unfortunately, as well as price onto us. You know, where there's a sort of this shift away now, like, okay, let's hang on to our things a little bit longer. Let's see how do we do that? Well, exactly, how do we do that? We don't really have this common knowledge anymore. It's not a part of our the teaching, you know, it's not passed on from our parents necessarily, because they'd already lost it by that point. So we're just in a position here where I think there's a desire to understand how to care for our clothing, to hold on to them longer, you know, fewer better, you know, keep it longer and all of that. But there's just this deficit of knowledge right now about how to actually accomplish that goal successfully. You know, and that's where the idea of garment grooming kind of comes in, the idea of considering the needs of the garment. There's a quote from, I'm not going to do the full quote, but just the idea of sort of like a sentiment, I suppose, from 1931. It was from the kind of like a pamphleture from the Women's Institute of Domestic Arts and Sciences. So it would have been like, you know, how to stretch your dollar and keep your clothing as long as possible. This is when you absolutely had to. And they referenced the intelligent treatment of clothing. When I read that, it was like, oh my goodness, just what an amazing concept. To treat our clothing care with intelligence, like to think about what we're doing, you know, to apply knowledge, the desire, first of all, you even do that, or the need in that case, but to then apply those tools and those skills, you know, I think that's where we need to come. We need to come from a different angle, the idea of actually applying some intelligence to what we're doing. And luckily the garment grooming practices, some of these different techniques, you know, while they're kind of lost to us today, there are a lot of applications that can be brought back into our day. They were once a daily ritual, and I think that we can kind of bring some of this back in to our everyday. So we're going to start taking a look at what some of that means. Okay. So the first item we're going to look at is in relation to brushing our clothing. All right, and there were once upon a time brushes that were used and were part of pretty much like anybody's, different tools that they had at their toilet, if you will, but this would have been a woman's probably. It has a beautiful, you probably can't see it, but there are very ornate initials on this. So that's one. There's another one here. Oh, this also has some initials on it. So beautiful pieces. Got another one here. This would have been more of like a gentleman's. The first two that we were looking at are boar's hair, and they have different like this one's stiff, kind of hurts. This one's quite a bit softer, but then this one is horsehair, which I think is pretty cool. So this one feels really quite lovely. So these were, tools that were, again, just an essential part of our everyday regime. So there is a really fun book by a butler, like a mid-century butler, Stanley Ager, called The Butler's Guide to Running the Home and Other Graces. Now, when I was exploring all this, and by the way, I got this at some point, my mom gave it to me. She's a huge antique collector. Victorian is her era. And like a lot of people, I thought it was a hairbrush. I mean, I didn't know, okay, that's a really stiff, nasty brush. Like, I can't imagine actually having to brush my hair with that. But sure. And then, however long I've had this, I don't know. Now, as I've gotten into all of this, look at, oh my God, it's a garment brush. Like, I have one already. How cool. But it sort of started to occur to me as I was starting to do research. I really felt like brushing, which we're going to sort of explore what that means, but that it was a really important part of how to care for our clothing that we used to use. And then, wouldn't you know, this one of the first things I read in this book, which I was just so excited. So brushing is the first step in clothes care. All clothes look better for brushing, which restores their newness and freshens them up. And it removes dust, which is extremely important because dust is abrasive and in time will wear on your cloth. So he's not only talking about elemental dust, like or environmental dust, which would be, obviously going out and about your day, the things that you're tracking in from outside. But he's also talking about the dust and debris actually from our skin. And I don't think a lot of us realize, but our skin is actually the oils and everything are very acidic. So they can tend to, eat away at the cloth and the fibers. And, so that's a huge issue. And that would have been something that, in addition to getting the cat hair off, but also, really kind of actually removing some of that, especially around those areas where it's touching your skin, so that it didn't compromise the quality of the garment. So hopefully you can sort of see what's going on here. I have a beautiful camel hair coat here that I found at a thrift store at Savers for probably all of $10, and basically what you're doing when you're brushing a garment, whether it be a coat like this or a jacket or even pants, slacks, a skirt, you're actually you're going against the nap or the grain, if there is a nap, and that would be something like this is actually like a hair. So there's literally a nap, on there. And what you're doing is you're actually going against the nap and you're kicking out, all of the, I'm in view here, you're kicking out all of the visible particles and what have you, but also, if there's any oils and things like that. And then you're laying the nap down. So you're picking a direction. You're not going all over the place. That's not the point. It's about getting up and then laying down. And so that is basically the principle of, how you brush a garment. It's obviously extremely effective on something like this, like all those sort of black coats that we have that are, our pea coats and things like that, extremely effective. But also blazers, things like, even if they aren't a woolen type of thing like this, they can still absolutely be served by brushing. Now, there are companies that are still creating these types of quality brushes. This is like a Germanic company, I believe. I didn't include this in the chat window, but Red Decker. But I mean, you can look it up, and they're investment pieces. This is a gorgeous piece, and it's for cashmere. So this is a very fine bristle brush. And I mean, if you go out and you find something, or you decide to invest in a really beautiful garment brush like this, it will last you the rest of your life. Makes it a very enjoyable experience. But there's also just getting, a lint brush. And these are those double-sided deals where, you just got to make sure you're following the right direction. The arrow tells you, which way to go. If you were to make a mistake, it's not the end of the world, but you're basically depositing all of the stuff that you just pulled out. So, you just want to be like careful with it. But this thing, it gets in deep. It really cleans things out. Now, in comparison, or just, to think about like what we typically do now, the sticky roller is kind of our modern equivalent of brushing. But I just want us to think about what a sticky roller is doing, and not even from an environmental perspective. Like, yeah, it's, obviously refilling, it's something you have to throw away the pieces. Okay, that's fine. But it's more like, what are you doing to the clothing? You might be getting the cat hair off, but you're also depositing some glue onto the fibers. So it's going to attract more stuff later. And it's not doing anything to actually get into the fibers. You know what I mean? So from that perspective, I feel like it's good for a quick swipe, when you need to like run out of the house, absolutely, like get out the sticky roller. But if you really want to actually clean this thing and have it be something, especially if you're done with it for the season, you want to move on and put it into storage. I have some beautiful pieces that, I love. And at the end of the season, I take some time and I brush them out. And when I pull it out for the next season and I'm ready to wear that piece I love, it's like this glorious thing that is like being presented to me, because I took a few minutes to like do that before I put it away. So that is essentially what brushing our garments is all about. Let's see. I'm going to put this guy over to the side. And I'm just going to move these guys out of the way. So now we're going to move into talking about washing. But first we're going to talk about sort of the idea of dry cleaning versus washing, and sort of what's going on there. I want to show an example of two silk tops that are a similar type of silk, similar weight. They're practically identical pieces. On one of these garments, the tag, it says hand wash. Okay, cool, hand wash cold. And then on this one, again, very similar weight and situation, type of fabric. Wherever this guy's thing is, I don't know if I can find it. Well, I'll just tell you. Trust me, it says dry clean only. So why, like, how are we supposed to figure out what we're supposed to do when, or, what our options are when there's different tags on a similar piece? And I've seen this on, woolens and cashmeres as well. Dry clean only on one, hand wash or dry clean or whatever on the other. So what's happening there is there was a labeling rule that came out in 1971, Federal Trade Commission. And they basically said, to the manufacturers that you only have to have one label, one direction, method of cleaning your garments on the label. If there's more than one option, you don't have to present them both. So it can often be easier for them to just plug in dry cleaning on something, and then it puts the onus of responsibility on the dry cleaner, not on the person following the directions. So if they ruin it, they're going to go to the dry cleaner and demand satisfaction, as opposed to, coming at the manufacturer. So I think there's a couple of reasons why it's just a lot easier for them to just put dry cleaning on there. But I think it's caused a lot of confusion as to what we can and can't wash. Now dry cleaning is the name dry is a little bit of a misnomer. There's just nothing dry about it. It's actually still liquid. It's a solvent. So it's not water-based, but it's still liquid. It's a solvent-based. And also, not only is it swirling in the solvent, but it's typically dried at very high temperatures. So there is a drying element as well. And the bottom line is that it can be very damaging on clothing that is delicate, like your cashmeres and your woolens and your silks, and it can cause them to become brittle. It can cause sheens and things to develop. On cashmere, especially, like I have literally felt pieces and I feel it and I go, oh no, like they dry cleaned this, and it's lost that, that soft bloom that we anticipate and we want to feel on our cashmere or a fine woolen. So what I ended up doing, is I go through my routine of washing it, and it's like it comes to life, and it's like, thank you very much. Like I can breathe again, so dry cleaning does have certain purposes. There are certain garments that are, if there's a lot of construction going on, like lining and different things, like, yes, there is a possible application, but I kind of believe that with all of the different things we're discussing today, if you're refreshing your garments in such a way, it's not necessarily ever going to be necessary again. So that's that. In terms of looking at that. Now we're talking about washing. Let me see if I can get kind of a good, I'm probably going to end up trying to push my screen down so people can see what I'm doing. But first I just wanted to show you that this is and if there's knitters, in this group, I imagine you're not going to be surprised by seeing eucalypt. I mean, I think most of you probably know this wonderful, I just want to bathe in it. It's just like, bury me in it. I love it. It's no rinse. This is the beautiful thing about this thing. It's a no rinse wash, and it was actually developed in Australia, like in the outback, by I think people who were out doing like field work, environmental science. They didn't have access to a lot of water, so this whatever it is that they've come up with here just allows you to clean clothing without having to actually rinse it. And that's kind of huge, because what ends up happening, I think, when we attempt to wash, say our favorite sweater that's woolen, there's the potential for accidentally felting it, or having, it shrink a little bit. And I think what's happening there is, even if the best of intentions are placed, if you're using a delicate wash type thing, but if it requires rinsing, a lot of times people end up putting the garment like underneath the water and it's flowing down on it. And we don't realize like how maybe actually aggressive our hands are with it. And then the water's flowing over it. And before you know it, you've kind of screwed up your sweater, So I feel like this is a really wonderful get around of that potential, because, you don't have to rinse it. I mean, you can, but I can assure you I've washed many, many, many things and without rinsing, and they come out absolutely gorgeous. So that being said, I'm going to just show you I'm going to do a demonstration without any water. So I'm just going to have to pretend here, but just to kind of give you an idea of what it looks like. Does that feel okay? Jamie, can I get a thumbs up? Does that look okay? All right, good. Take a quick sip
That
of
looks
water.
great.
Okay, good. Am I speaking loud enough and everything? I'm assuming that my levels are good. Okay.
Yeah, you sound great.
All right. Okay, so let's say we had water in this, vehicle here, and we would put in, it's not a lot, I usually end up just kind of taking the cap. I'll kind of like put a little bit in this little cap and I'll just dump it in. So doesn't need a ton. I mean, unless you've got like a ton of stuff, I guess, or it's really soiled. Give it a minute, swish it around. And then you introduce the garment, and then you would like maybe let it sit for like 10 minutes, 15 minutes. I have walked away and forgotten about it and come back at it a day later. Not a big deal. The water's cold, I'll tell you that, but it's not like it just got destroyed. But 15, 20 minutes is absolutely sufficient. And then what you would do is you would take it up in your hands, kind of like a basketball or like a ball. And you just squeeze it together. No ringing, nothing aggressive. You're not trying to get that like last little bit out, freaking out on it. You're just kind of doing a good squeeze. You're getting all that water out as best you can. And then you would move into, this is an option of using a towel to squeeze it out. So you would, take your piece, maybe lay a little bit nicer than that, and you would just kind of get it in there, roll, squeeze it out, get that done. And then, you could put it on a fresh towel, depending on if you're putting it on a floor or something, you might want to put it on a fresh towel so that it's not like a wet towel. So it really depends just how many towels, I guess, you want to deal with afterwards. It's a little tricky for me to show it on this board, but essentially when it's time to lay it down, you're going to block the sweater, which again, you guys are a lot of knitters here. I think you probably know what I'm talking about. It's just, you don't want to just, throw it down. You just want to try to like shape it back into, especially if it's some of the more modern shapes that maybe have like different architectural things happening. If the sweater is really fits like absolutely perfect or has a really interesting shape and you want to make sure you are able to keep that and not have any change, then you certainly could get out like a little tape measure and just make a couple quick measurements just so you know what you're dealing with, and then you can get it back into place. But essentially, you can even, I've folded in the arms. I have a drying rack and there's like a little square mesh screen at the bottom, and I like to put sweaters down on that. So, if I was to put the arms over it, it would hit the floor, and I don't want that. So, I might just fold the arms in and just have it, just look like you would want to see it, on yourself or whatever. So, and that's pretty much it. You want to dry it away from a direct heat source. So don't do it next to like a radiator or like your heat source, or don't do it in the sun. You want to keep it out of direct sun. You want to keep it off, near direct heat. But barring that, it's just a matter of giving it like a day or so. You might want to flip it over at some point and let the other side go. But that's pretty much it. It's like really, when it comes, when you kind of get into how easy this makes it, like foolproof, like the idea of a no rinse wash. Now, Eucalyptus has lanolin in it, which is one of the natural properties of wool that allows it to be kind of like water repellent. And so there are some people that I believe, they may feel that they're allergic to lanolin. So I want to just put a shout out that there is another alternative that's been presented called, I didn't put this in the chat screen, but soak. I think it's called soak. And that's, I guess, doesn't have lanolin in it. So, if somebody wants to not have lanolin, then that's an option. I have not used that yet to do sweaters, but I have done it for silk and it's been fine. And I did read a comment that someone said, well, if you're going to be doing silk, I don't know if you want to introduce lanolin, onto that kind of a garment. So, fair enough. I haven't had any problems with it, but it's a possible argument, you could do that. So also, oh yeah, I was going to talk about, before we got into this, In terms of washing, I want to discuss, and this would be more for your washer dryer, like your washing machine, that typically we tend to overuse our detergent. So there's just a lot of detergent overusage here. We don't give water enough credit. I think that, marketing, right? So the detergents companies are going to want it to seem like they're the power driver, they're what's making the clothing clean. And they are an important element. I mean, we're very lucky to have our modern detergents. Trust me, there were times when we didn't have those kinds of luxuries and we actually used our own urine. So to clean our own clothing, that's a whole nother discussion. That was called chamber lye. So we're very lucky to be able to have something so convenient, but I think we need to give water a little bit more credit, and we need to kind of tamp down on how much detergent we're putting in there. So there's a quote it's from 1910 called The Teacher's Manual of Elementary Laundry Work. Okay, so she says, the first and most important article in laundry work is water. Water is a very efficient solvent. There are very few substances, solid, liquid, or gaseous, not capable of being dissolved by it. So that if other cleansing agencies were entirely absent and plenty of time were given, water alone, with good scrubbing, would generally cleanse the clothes. Oh, okay. So I think we just need to start thinking like, okay, it's the water and some of the agitation that's really playing a pretty major role. And that when we're doing detergent, like when I have, I don't have the cap with me, but a cap's about that big or something. And they've got all those different, layers and stuff. I almost never go beyond like that much. I mean, really, unless you're doing major soil clothing and if you have kids and there's, some really, scary things happening there, then I'd say, yes, you might want to like use a little bit more. But just in general, like, we just need, now also, when you use too much detergent, it's actually doing the opposite effect, and it can leave residue on the clothing, which actually does not help it to extend the life. So it can compromise the clothing, also the machine. And there's a lot of people who have problems, I guess, with, I don't have one of these, the more efficient low water flow, HE type machines, but I know there's a lot of, people complaining and having issues with residue buildup and gunk buildup and things like that. And that's a real problem. And that has potentially to do with using too much detergent. So that's something to think about. Also, vinegar in the rinse cycle. I don't know if you guys already are working with vinegar, but it's awesome. You just put it in the rinse cycle part. So like mine I have an agitator that has like the middle drum, the circular drum in the middle. So mine is like this little thing, and I put in the vinegar, and then it does the vinegar just in the rinse cycle. And I can assure you, your clothing does not smell like vinegar. Your towels do not smell like vinegar. Vinegar is actually a natural deodorizer. So once it gets kind of rinsed out of the situation, it just makes your clothes smell really, really fresh, which is really nice. So it also helps to remove residue of not only from your clothing, but from the machine. And it's a brightener, it's a natural brightener. So it helps to keep, armpit stains away, things like that. So I absolutely love vinegar. Now, also in terms of just washing in the dryer, washing the washing machine, there's garment bags, and this is like a mesh one with a zipper. You could just use a white cotton pillowcase. You don't need to go super fancy. But you can wash sweaters, even your favorite sweaters, in the washing machine. I do it all the time. I have too much cashmere. Like suffocating in all the cashmere I have. Like I can't wash it all by hand. So I end up taking, the pieces. I just put them in the bags. I like a pretty good fit in there. You don't want like a ton of room. So try to do what you can. And I found that I like to actually kind of fold it almost like I would, like I showed you guys, maybe with like a fold, but like actually kind of get it a little bit bundled into itself. And then I use I have a hand wash cycle. So your gentlest cycle, you know, the Eucalyptus, you don't have to do a rinse cycle, but usually I forget to go run down and get it before it does. So that's fine. It rinses out. And then it spins, right? It spins at the end. And then you have this like, just damp. It's not even wet, you know? And you're fine. Like I have really never had a problem. So I think there's a lot of trepidation about the idea of getting a nicer piece. Obviously, if you want to be like super duper careful, then hand washing the way I showed you and just being there for every step is your best bet. But if you have like a couple pieces and you're just like, you know, like I'm fine with putting it in the washing machine, I'm going to give it a roll, go for it. You know, I think that it's a more potentially realistic way of dealing with. Yeah.
Can you show us how to do the sweater combs? Can
Oh,
we
yep,
move
that's
on to
coming.
that?
That's
Just in a time so that we can get to the felting too.
Oh my God, am I going on too long? Okay.
No, you're fine.
I thought it would be like 10 minutes. Yes.
We're very passionate about this and it's coming through. It's great. No, it's very, very interesting. We were just looking at the time and it would be great if we could move our hands.
Let's move on then. Yes, we're gonna move on. I was gonna talk a little bit about airing out and I just wanna, because I did include it in the chat screen. So I just wanna let you guys know when it comes to airing out and sort of trying to not use the dryer as much, and that is a part of, that's one of the major tenets of this whole thing is like trying to avoid the dryer. The dryer is extremely damaging to clothing. It's fine for your everydays, but like when it's something that's nicer and you want to try to hang on to it. And I do want to make a quick point about yoga pants and our sort of performance wear pieces, because I know a lot of people just love, you know, we love these pieces. We expect a lot of them out of them. They market themselves to expect us, you know, that we're supposed to get a lot out of these garments. You want to try to avoid the dryer, but if you are going to use the dryer on a low setting, do not include a dryer sheet. Okay, that is a different form of fabric softener. And if you have higher quality pieces like that you've invested in, it'll say don't use fabric softener. But that includes dryer sheets. They actually like get into the pores of the garment. These garments are constructed in such a way, they are like engineered to mimic your body and like make sure that you're expelling moisture, you know, that you're circulating air. You got to think about a piece of clothing, just like that coat that we did with the brush, as sort of like an extension of our body. And it has pores and it has, you know, it's like a whole environment. And if you start clogging it up with fabric softener, dryer sheets, if you start washing it with cotton pieces, that'll get into the fibers. So that being said, so that's kind of avoiding the dryer is huge. And this enzyme spray, which is stain and odor remover from Ecos, is amazing. I spray clothing all the time. I refresh the armpits and I don't have to wash things like hardly ever because I just keep spraying and it just eats it. The enzymes eat it. And I did a lot of research to try to find something. And this just has a beautiful lemon scent. I'm very sensitive to smells. So for anybody who has smell sensitivities, this is, you know, you'll be okay. But this is an amazing thing I love. So I just want to plug that. And it was very hard to find one. It's not marketed to being for fabric and clothing, but it does include that it's allowable. And I've never had a problem. I haven't ruined anything to date with that. Okay. So yes, we're moving on to combs. Now, for anybody who has their kit, you want to like get that out. Now, I just got to find what I did. Where's the pink piece? All right, sorry guys, I'm not finding oh, it's the piece that I just did, and it's in this. Okay, I rolled it in the towel. That's what happened. I'm gonna do this again. All right. So a sweater comb, what's going on with that? Why are we combing our sweaters? Most pieces end up pilling. I mean, that's just the nature of knitwear. And when it's anything that has like a hairy surface, you know, woolen and cashmere, it's just prone to a little bit of pilling, especially in the areas where there's high abrasive traffic, you know, under the arms. And a lot of people they give up. They don't really know what to do. the garment doesn't look good anymore. I guess I'll donate it to Goodwill, you know, and I've seen so many pieces that it's just like, all they had to do was just take a few moments to comb it. And combing is, especially for like woolen, is actually like a really important part of not only removing the pills on the surface, but actually reconditioning and pulling out the natural oils that are in some of these garments. So it actually helps to, you know, just keep it, just like our own hair, like pulling the oils through is actually like, keeps it healthy. Now, this is a comb that, and you can get one. This is something I've made this comb with a friend. This is one from J. Crew. We pulled this bad boy apart to see what's going on. So during this project, there was like a lot of R&D, you know, figuring out what's going on. We pulled this out and we realized all this is drywall sanding screen. That's it. That's what that is. That's what that little piece is. And that is the tool that we're going to use, a part of it that allows us to remove the pills. So you have the little binder clip and you've got that little piece, and I try to cut them so they would, you know, fit together. All you want to do is just fold over. Yep. Just fold over the piece of screen in half. You know, you just do.
Lengthwise or widthwise?
So it would be, I guess, like lengthwise, because, you know, right now it's perfectly matched to be accepted by the sweater comb. I mean, the little binder clip. So you just, yep. And you want to leave like about like, oh, I have one. That's right. Well, I don't know where my screen went. I guess I can't see it on that surface, but yeah, you want like about like that much. You don't want too much because it'll flop and be, yep.
It's okay. Can you see
So now put the clip on, put the binder clip on. And what feels right to you? Like, tell me, show me what you think, how much you need at the bottom.
Like that?
A little too much.
Too much. Okay.
You want it to like stay pretty, you don't want it to be wobbly.
How's this? Too?
So you want to actually make it smaller.
Smaller. Okay.
Yeah, sorry. Like so.
So everybody, here we go. We've got the binder clip. If you can see mine, fold it in half. Let me get my, and just about, this looks like almost about a fourth, maybe an
you
eighth.
See like maybe 3 or 4 holes, like,
yeah.
You know. Yeah.
Perfect. Let me get.
All right. And so when we have a sweater, we're going to like lay it on a flat surface. Please don't do it like on your bed, you know, something with rumply. And we're just striking. And you can see this sort of, I've got a hand here to kind of keep it. Look at all that.
Oh, wow.
Wow, right? So, yeah, and that's all right. That cashmere can handle it. So I think what happens is a lot of people get really nervous doing this and they see like the point almost, and it's like they're just like trying to just sort of attack like the little part of the garment that maybe has the pill, but you really want to use actually like the flat and almost at like an angle so that you're not perfectly like that. You see that sort of angle I'm at? And you're just doing like a pretty authoritative, I don't know what the word, like confident stroke. And that's it. And then you just pull your fluff away and you keep going. So, you know, say you had found this at Goodwill or, you know, Savers or wherever, and it had a bunch of pills on it and it looked like the cat dragged it in. You know, you can spend a few minutes with it and just completely transform this piece of clothing back to you know, kind of like where it was. Now, eventually, and if you were to just do one spot forever, if you didn't stop, like, yeah, you probably destroy it and wear it thin. But for everyday usage and just maintenance, I mean, it's absolutely fine to comb sweaters. And we used to do it, although we didn't have to do it as much because the quality of what was available was a completely different animal than today. That's a topic for another time, in terms of how the quality of, you know, our cashmere and what's happened there. But I say all cashmere is good cashmere at this point, even the stuff that fills up kind of easily, because you can just comb it, and you can deal with it. So I don't know if people giving it a roll. How is it going for you, Jamie? Are you giving that a try? I know that binder clip's a little weird, but let me see your hands on it. Like, how does it feel? Oh, look at that. Nice. Oh, I can't hear you. I think you're on mute.
Apologies. What about acrylic? Would you call
So
it
acrylic, it's a little tricky. You can do this on non-woolens, although I'm gonna almost reverse what I'm saying about how to approach this, in that you would want it to be a little bit more targeted. Not that you're using the point, you never want to use the point, because you could, ruin it. But if you had, pills and things, but the problem, so acrylic is just completely different, and it's plastic and it's long strands, and it doesn't have any of the resilience, okay, that wool does. But you can still kind of grab at well, you can't see, but you could just be like, oh, I've got some areas, I'm just going to kind of like pull them and get them off.
Kind of a more targeted approach?
More targeted. It's not a long stroke. You're not going to be able to do the same thing. It does not want you to pull it across. So for acrylics and things, I mean, it's a little trickier. A fabric shaver might be a little bit of a better tool, like an electric fabric shaver, but you certainly can. You just want to be a little more mindful that it's not something you want to just strike across the whole garment, because you'll end up doing some damage along the way. Yeah.
Would you put fleece in that category too as an acrylic?
Yeah, I would say, well, yeah, fleece, even like cotton knit would probably be in that category, because you can just see, like, with something like this, it's woolly, it has all the beautiful soft hair and everything else, and like, so when you do this, it's like, but if you're doing something that's like a tighter weave that's not like in the woolen family, you do need to be careful that you're not, because you'll just end up creating almost like those hairs, but you don't want that. So so it still can work. It can totally work. You just have to be careful. And then you might want to just, if you've got a lot of stuff like that, you might want to get more of like a fabric shaver where you can do more of the surface and not like deeper down. So
great, thanks.
Yeah. All right.
So Reed, we're getting to it's about 2:53.
Oh my God.
I know, time goes by really fast. Is there any way that you have a couple more highlights, and then we could work on the needle felting?
Absolutely. Yeah, I think we can probably just start moving into the needle felting. I'll say one super quick thing about storage, just because if you've taken the time to clean this baby and keep it fresh and everything, you just want to know how to store it. In terms of moth prevention, you want to clean this before you put it away. Okay, moths are more attracted to the oil and the dirt and the food that might be on the clothing than the fiber itself. So that's pretty critical. And then cotton bags, moths are not attracted to cotton. So that is a great way, like get a really high quality one that zips and that they can't get in, like through the laundress, they have a bag, but a cotton storage bag. Avoid plastic. Plastic is not breathable, and it can breed, bacteria and rot and different things. So you just want to avoid storing in plastic. So I have some cotton bags that I love, and that would be my suggestion. If you're going to take all this time to do all this, don't let the moths get at it, Okay. So now we're going to move into mending, and the vehicle that I have for you guys today is this needle felting. Just to give you just a quick glance, at some other options available, like you can certainly darn. Oh, yep, that's the little kit. I've darned some socks, some cashmere socks. That was intense. This is, doing like little satin stitches and things like that. So there's different things to explore. But again, that could be maybe a conversation for you guys next week if you want to think about that. I do want to just point out that this day and age, we are looking at visible mending as sort of a movement. where instead of, trying to hide our men's, we're actually proudly displaying them. And that's where this needle felting thing comes in so great, because you can have so much fun with it. And I'll just show you just a couple of quick examples. This beautiful little cashmere piece, and then there was some holes on the sleeve. So I did some fun stuff with little needle felting squares and a little stitch work. This one I went pretty bold, and I did these different. I'm kind of approaching it from obviously an artistic kind of point of view.
They're beautiful. They look so gorgeous.
Thank you. But certainly it doesn't, and I'll show you guys how I wrangled those. I don't really see, most people don't really do those clean shapes, but I think it gives you some options to kind of elevate it a little bit so it looks really modern and clean. But essentially, most people end up starting with sort of like circles. All right. Here we go. This is a practice piece. It's got all different people have like done all kinds of weird stuff to it. So this is just a little gray cashmere sweater dress that has some issues. You don't have to have a hole to try this. So I'll do something without a hole so you can just see what's happening, the science kind of behind it. So this is wool roving, and this is unspun wool. Okay, and then we have our woolen piece, and we have a needle, which is specifically for this this project, which is a felting needle. So you unfortunately cannot just take any needle out of your kit of whatever you have. It's not going to function properly. What's happening here? Wool, okay, which is basically like a hair, like similar to our hair. Not that I don't want to go into too much detail, but on the actual fiber itself, there are little like scales. And when they get agitated through different means, they kind of flare out, okay? And they kind of engage, if you will. And then they end up locking together. And that can happen in ways that's not great. You accidentally washed it wrong, and all of a sudden you have this tiny little sweater. So that's a problem. But we can use this this artistic, method of felting for this application, and that's through this special needle, which this needle, if you look up close, has little notches and grooves in it. And those are like little barbs that are pointing in such a direction that when they go and stab the wool, it's encouraging all those little scales to come out, and it starts to lock together. So that's what's happening there.
Reed, would you normally use, in the kits I included a small, medium, and large. Is there, what size do you normally use?
I think let's just try, like if you have a medium in there, like just go for the medium. Yeah.
Sure. And then you can kind of feel which way you want to go in the future.
Yep.
Super. Thank you.
Yeah, no problem. Now you've got, I have a piece of foam. I think a lot of people have a white piece of foam. Some people might have a sponge, which Uli said, let's give that a try too. And that should hopefully work. And the whole point of this foam and this surface, we have a really sharp, thin needle here, and we do not want it to hit. It will break. Please be careful of your fingers as well. But it's just a vehicle to be able to pierce in, and hopefully.
So about how much roving did you take?
So for this, because I'm not trying to fill a hole just yet, I just took like a little blob.
Super.
This is just to show you guys, like just attaching it. And so you're just piercing. So you could do embellish too. It doesn't have to be like filling a hole. Now, here's the thing. When you're doing this, eventually, if you don't pull this out, it is going to stick so much into this piece of foam or whatever your substrate is underneath that you're going to pull it away. It's just going to so I've seen that happen, and it's very sad. So you want to just think like, okay, I've got a pretty good start, and I don't want to have it stick. So just make sure you kind of pull it out. You can double back to the other side. I mean, I'm going pretty fast, but you You could certainly do smaller strokes. You know, I've done it a lot, so but you know, I just want to be very mindful of like your fingers and everything. And you just want to just keep hitting it until you feel like it's really starting to merge in.
Oh, wow.
So, you know, you keep going until you feel like you're getting somewhere. And that's just throwing it on there. If you have a hole, an actual hole, which I don't, so I'm going to make one. See if I can get enough of a starter. I was going to bring my scissors in and I forgot. Well, I should have pre-done a hole. But essentially, if you're going to do a hole, I like to create like a little sandwich almost, so that I've got a little bit on the underside and then a little bit on the top side. And then I'm kind of felting those together. And I found that that tends to be sort of the best way to make sure that the, you know, that it's going to actually be secure. Hold on, I just need some sort of sharp surface that I'm not going to accidentally break.
So a little bit on the inside and a little bit on the outside for them to kind of bind together?
Exactly, yeah. Yep. Give me 1 second. I need my scissors and I totally forgot to bring them in.
Hey, does anybody want to go into gallery view? Is anybody working on one right now that they can show closer?
You're working, but I don't know if it's doing anything.
Yeah, I'm working on this yellow with pink.
So Sammy's working here. Wait.
Nice.
Ooh, nice. Oh, I love the yellow and the pink together.
I like the bright colors.
All right, so now I've got
came downstairs earlier and was like, I have this old sweatshirt that was like given to us by 12 other people. Has been, and I was like, I'm sorry, you can't fix that. Different things. Okay, Reed, back to you.
So I got a hole, right? I went a little bigger than I was kind of planning, but I've got some on the underside. And then I'll sandwich some on top. I'm going to show you guys a really cool needle tool, and I included that in the chat room. And it allows you to just cover a lot more ground than these like single guys. It's a company called Clover.
I love their stuff.
Oh yeah.
That's like,
oh, and you know what? And there's a special.
Notions.
There's actually a special mat as well. So this is let's see.
Oh wow.
Got like more than one, right? Hopefully the visual, you can see that there's like 5. And this little piece of plastic guard, which then there's a mat specifically for it, like a little nylon hair. When you put it in, it goes as deep as it can, and then that's it, boom. So there's no possibility of breaking the thing. So this is a pretty neat little tool here. And it just allows you to, just like I said, cover a lot more ground at once. You can sort of see what I'm doing here.
Oh wow. So this is for if you get really into it.
Yeah, well, I mean, this actually makes it kind of easier too, because say if I was actually trying to blend this in more, like I made what's really cool too is you guys all have like, maybe you pack it like with a couple little guys, you know, if you get the full suite where you've got a whole bunch of colors, it is so much fun to like mix and match and blend, you know, like all the colors to try to get like a match on your color, especially if it's like a heather gray. Well, I think it's fun anyway. But if you were to do this, you get like this really beautiful, like it kind of a halo effect. I'll show you. in a second, but see how I'm definitely like not taking too long to think about, let me get the other side.
Reed, so when you're filling a hole, would you, so I did it from one side, would you flip the garment inside out and do it from the other side as well?
Well, yeah, so that's kind of what happened when you do the sandwich and you have some that you've already like kind of placed on the underside so that it matched up, right? So this guy, like this is the underside, and you can see it's got its own sort of fiber, and then this is the top side, and that's got its own bit of fiber. And so then, yeah, I'm gonna like basically be attacking it from one side, gently pulling it off the mat or your foam. Because if you just pull it, I'm telling you right now, you're gonna lose some of it. And so I would just keep going, and then obviously I would like be checking the hole to see, you know, is there enough fiber like there? Is it attaching well to the area around it? You know, you got to think that the wool needs to attach to the sweater too. So if you've got your hole and you're just like, oh, I'm just going to do this tiny little bit, you know, you do need it to spread out a little bit so that it can actually mesh in to the area around it. You know, I used to be very particular and like try to have it not go too far out, and I just felt like, you know what, it's really gonna stick better if you just let it. This thing is awesome. If you guys get into it, it makes it a lot more pleasurable than the one. Well, you can start to see, and I had a pretty decent hole. It's like this whole area was a hole, but you know, I'm getting there, and I could decide to like reinforce more, you know, there. And then also, you know, if you're feeling like you're pretty happy with it and you don't want to keep punching and punching and punching, you can just kind of cut off. If there's like a lot of like little hairs hanging out, shave it. So, you know, you don't have to have it be so fuzzy and all of that. Because you do want to think about like the integrity of the garment around, like the knit around the hole. And like, if you were to go too crazy, like needle felting and just, I don't know, you could end up with like weird puckers and things like that. So you just want to, you know, be thinking about it.
Could you use your sweater brush on the holes that you've mended?
Yeah, you can. I mean, it depends on, you want to be, you know, obviously you want to be careful, but yeah, you, let me see. So I've got this thing, especially the underside is looking really fuzzy right now. Let me get, oh, it's underneath here.
Oh, nice.
So you could do that, you know, to pull some of it out. And I think just in general, like if you're maintaining the sweater, I mean, obviously you want to be careful of this spot, like it's not going to be as secure as the sweater itself. But you know, I've had many a hole mended like this, and then I wash it and it's fine. And you know, you may find at some point, like, you know, I feel like I need to do a little bit more or something. So if you feel like you're concerned that it might start to be a problem, I mean, just felt a little bit more in there. You know, I've done elbows that, you know,
that big.
Yeah, yep, I've done that. I have one, I actually have, it's called a cloud, and it's unspun cashmere. It's called a cloud, and it's like the softest, most delightful thing you can ever imagine. And I did that on like a camel hair cardigan, and so it's like a natural color, and I'm still wearing it, you know. And eventually I had to, I think, go in there and do a little bit extra. I've even done this on non-woolen and non-knit things. I had a pair of linen pants, my favorite black linen pants. They're, you know, just your classic shape, and I was like, I am never gonna find these again. And unfortunately, inside here, I wore these a lot. They wore out. You know, it was getting really threadbare. And I tried doing some mending in there with needle thread. It just wasn't working. I just felt like I was making more of a mess than anything. And I was like, you know what? I'm gonna I'm gonna needle felt in there, and I actually did like 2 big black patches, and then I shaved it down as much as possible because that's a funky area. We don't want to like have what looks like hair, you know what I mean? But I like shaved it down, and like you cannot tell. And I saved these linen pants. It's a little of a weird method, but it has allowed me to wear them for more years. And that's
it with more natural. You could only really do it with more natural fibers.
I guess in
than
this
a cotton.
well, yeah, I mean, I think
You just say experiment.
you could experiment, you could try. The thing is, if you think of the wool as glue and that the roving can stick to itself, and yes, it also is integrating into like a woolen garment, but think about like depending if you have the sandwich effect. If you had like a cotton shirt, I had a cotton, like a little, just like a cotton t-shirt, like a really light material, and it got like pinholes in it, and I was like, well, I'm just gonna do like a little shape of a needle felt there, and I did, and it's fine, and that's on like cotton. So, well, that is natural, but I think you could probably do the same thing with something non-natural. You could try it. It's worth a shot. But the natural application obviously is woolen. And then also these, I was just going to show you guys, like I use these little geometric shapes.
Oh, neat.
To do, like, I like squares.
So are these maybe like cookie cutters almost?
They are. I think they're mini fondant. Fondant cutters, so right? Like, so mini cookie cutters. Yeah. So you've got different shapes. You've got, your circles and, well, that was a oval, rectangles, triangles, or whatever, that's a diamond shape. And if you do that, you would try playing around with it, and you get those nice clean edges, and you can just have a whole different approach as opposed to the sort of polka dot circular, kind of thing that ends up happening with this a lot, where it ends up looking like polka dots, and this was an answer to like, can I make this feel a little more, in my mind anyways, like cleaner lines, a little more sophisticated. And yes, I feel like I've been able to do things where I just make it more of an artistic expression for myself through that means. So it was an experiment, and you saw some of those pieces, and it takes getting used to doing it that way. And I don't think we have time to really do that today, but it's definitely an option. It's fun. And
as we are running out of time, we had a couple of questions in the chat.
Oh yeah.
Get to. So we had one question being, is Woolite a good choice? What's your opinion on Woolite?
No.
Okay, good to know. Can you tell us why?
Oh, it's harsh. It's actually very harsh. And it's just like another one of these. It's manufactured by, I don't know, might be Procter & Gamble. I can't say for sure, but to be there softer, to be there more gentle, but really and truly, like it's actually not. I've done a lot of research on Woolite. So you're better off if you don't want to go for Eucalypt and all that. Just using baby no tears baby shampoo, Johnson & Johnson No Tears, or even shampoo, just whatever shampoo you have, I guess, really would work. Because it's like if you're washing this would be like for a sweater, it's like hair, right? So
yeah.
So you could just use your shampoo.
I would have never thought of that. That's so interesting. I use baby, little side note, I use baby shampoo for my makeup brushes.
Oh, yes. Yeah.
To clean off makeup brushes. We have another question here. What about Yorganics? Do you ever use those products?
I'm not familiar with them.
YORE Ganics.
Is that like a detergent kind of a thing? I'm assuming it's
line of cleaning products.
I'm not familiar with that. I would say I just clean with vinegar.
Vinegar?
Like
okay.
A lot.
Super.
Yeah.
One other thing, and then we'll get to you, Vera. One sec. Have you ever tried to wet felt the patch to stabilize and integrate it?
So what I do like to do, I happen to own a steamer. So if
Which you can buy really cheap ones. I have a steamer that I got that I like love, and you don't need to go all out on a huge one.
Nice. I love, and that's actually, forgot to talk about that, but that's a huge part of refreshing too. If you have the option, steaming, airing out, all of that is wonderful. But yes, so sometimes what I'll do is I'll actually take the steamer and I'll go over the area, and then I'll just press it with my fingers while it's moist, and just sort of massage it kind of into, just to give myself that little extra feeling that it is secure and around it. So that's a good question. It's not, I'm not wet felting as a technique specifically, but even when you wash it, once you've done that, there's going to be a certain amount. So if you're concerned and you want to maybe wash it, then wear it, so wash it before you try wearing it with the men, see how it holds up. And if maybe you find out that I didn't do enough, I need to do a little bit more. Yeah.
Okay. Vera, did you have a question?
Yeah, actually, I gathered 3 by now, or 2. Is this supposed to? So we did a haul here with the boys, and it's a little thicker than the sweater. Is that like all bad, or is it?
No, it's not necessarily bad. I mean, as you kind of get used to how much is needed, you might find that it's not going to need to be as thick. But also the shaving element, so that if you take your scissors and if you have some extra on top, just shaving it down might help with that as well. So, but you'll start to get a good feel for how much you actually need to do. But if it's boys sweaters, I mean, do they care if there's a little fuzzy, thicker knob there? Probably not. They're probably going to be okay with that.
And you keep talking about the vinegar. So I look into my washer, and it says liquid bleach or fabric softener. Which one would I put it in?
So like the little slots. What was the second one? Fabric softener?
Yeah.
In the softener. I think you'd want to go in the softener one. Yeah.
Okay.
But you want it to be introduced in the rinse cycle, so that it's already done the washing. It's already drained out the water that it used to wash. And then when it reintroduces water in the rinse cycle, so you might want to look at your manual, but I have a feeling it would probably be in the softener section.
Thank you.
One other little tip I want to say, just because it's magic, is for grease stains, and that is cornstarch. I don't know if anybody here has ever used cornstarch.
I'm going to put
I
that.
have saved so many things. Cornstarch absorbs oil. So if you end up with like this, I had spaghetti stains all over it. Can't tell now. I have saved, so I'm like a total, I'm a messy eater. So when you get a blob of oily stuff on your clothes, get your cornstarch out, dump it on there, let it sit overnight or whatever, brush it off. And then it might be a combination of, excuse me, using that enzyme spray I showed you. Also, just dish soap. Just, your Dawn or your Free and Clear dish soap is amazing for, that's pretty much how I clean my clothes. Like stains is dish soap, cornstarch, vinegar, enzyme spray. Like that's how I get everything out. But that is a way the cornstarch sucks it up, and you see it immediately, sucks it up. I just have saved so many things with cornstarch. I love it.
Great. Well, Reed, we want to thank you so much for coming and telling us so much. Does anybody else have any questions? Nope. Okay, super.
Well, I'm available.
Barbara's got a question.
Yeah, what was the name of that no rinse stuff?
Eucalypt.
Eucalypt?
So a lot of the stuff that Reed talked about, we put in the very top of the chat.
Okay, I couldn't see that.
Oh, okay. So let me double check that it's up there.
How do you spell that?
To everyone. Eucalypt, EUCALAN.
You got it.
And another plug there, they sell it at the Mermaid's Pearl, which you can also buy roving at. They have amazing colors.
Oh,
and
that's why I included their little business card, because I was so excited to see they sell roving. Yeah, at the Mermaid's Pearl.
Where is the Mermaid's Pearl?
the Mermaid's Pearl is in Wickford. It's a beautiful yarn shop in Wickford.
Hmm.
They have great Great, great stuff.
But yeah, so they sell soak. They sell that other one I talked about, which
Oh,
is
they
the,
don't sell the ukulele? The
they do both, I think. I think
Oh,
probably
okay.
sell both. Yeah. Yep. But yeah, I have a website, as was mentioned, the sustainablegarment.com, and my contact information, my emails like in there. You know, so if anybody has any other questions or just wants to like discuss, you know, like things that they know about, you know, I would love to hear from you. If anybody knows any other groups, organizations or art groups, or, you know, doesn't have to even be an art group at all, but, you know, people that might be interested in having a talk like this, having a presentation, keep me in mind, please. I'd like to do more of this. I really feel like I'm on a mission to educate people about this. And I think it's a real, this is the time that people need to have some information. So I want to help. Yep.
Thank
This
you
was
so
fun.
much.
All right.
And I
thank
just
you
wanted
guys.
to say too that the Green Stitch is partnered with the Rhode Island Natural History Survey and Save the Bay, and we are doing monthly. There's every Saturday meetings, and then monthly we switch projects. And next week we will be going back and finishing up our sweater mittens if you want to still work on that, or if you want to bring this project back, or if you just want to work on whatever project you're working on and just chat about art and local art and different environmental topics. We're open to it. So we've had a lot of people. Vera baked a pie a couple weeks ago. So don't feel like you're in our specific craft. Super.
One thing to
Okay.
add is that our mask auction ends tonight
Oh yes, I forgot to say that. Okay, so
on 32auctions.com.
okay, so two things. The Unmasking
Yeah.
Hera Challenge, which was local artists made usable and non-usable masks to raise money for Hera, and that's the there's an auction on the Hera website, and it'll take you to an auction site. But there's some really beautiful ones, really interesting ones. And then also, I forgot to mention that the Green Stitch is brought to you by Rhode Island Foundation. So don't forget them. Okay, super. So if anybody has any questions or anything else, feel free to stick around. But thank you so much. Again, Reed, thank you so much for all the information. I think
It's really
that
fun.
you.
Yeah.
can learn so much. I was a waitress forever, so I have like grease stains and everything, and I can't wait to
Be
try.
dumping the cornstarch on there. Yeah.
Yes, I ruined so many good clothes.
Yep. Yep.